Welcome to Africa in Harlem Live from the village of Harlem. I'm Issa. Today's guest is SBA District Director Beth Goldberg. She's here to tell us what's next now that the Small Business Administration is no longer accepting application for the Paycheck Protection Program or the Emergency Disaster Loans. Thank you for taking the time to be with us, Beth.
Thank you so much.
Can you tell us what happened and what should businesses do?
We have expended all the money that was given in both bills that were authorized by Congress. The first one in early March, which gave us $7 billion in direct lending called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. In the subsequent bill, along with the CARES Act, there was an additional $10 billion in EIDL loans, it called the Advance, which was the grant, and the Paycheck Protection Program was created with $349 billion. Sometime last night, in the middle of the night, those maximums were reached, and there was everything has been put on pause right now. I guess that's the new in word in New York. We're all on pause, right? So we are an agency that administers the law as passed by Congress. So if people are concerned about having more money made available, they need to talk to their congressional representatives about authorizing more money for the program.
It seems like Congress is already working on something, or?
Yes, they were talking about it before their recess, before the Passover and Easter holidays. Just as the consumer news, not from where I sit at SBA, I see in the paper they're still talking about it. But people who are concerned, as any concerned citizen should be in touch with their local congressional office and, express a desire to see that they need more money. They need to fund SBA with more money so we can then reopen, the systems that have been created to allow money to flow into the small business community.
The bill was signed on March 27, so
Right.
it's been less than a month, and the money is already gone. And we've seen in the Black community that many Black businesses were struggling to have access to these loans. And why is it so difficult for Black businesses to have access to these loans?
Let me talk first about the EIDL, the Economic Injury Loan. That is Uncle Sam funding a loan. So that is by far the easiest place for people who have no existing bank relationships or commercial lending relationships to get money. And a few days after we went online with the economic injury loans, a bunch of people got rejected, and we lowered our credit standards and encouraged them to reapply. So that is by far, when that program opens up again, the easiest way for people who do not have existing bank relationships to get money. And to give you an example, the interest rate for a business is 3.75% interest rate, and it's 30 years. So if someone were to take a $20,000 loan under that program, the payback would be less than $100 a month. So that is a very easy, not easy to apply, but it's a very appropriate way to apply for somebody who needs help during this pandemic for money that is very long-term. SBA prides itself on being cash flow lenders. We're not looking for the money to be repaid right away. In the second case with the Paycheck Protection Program, many lenders who were never interested in doing business with the SBA and doing our traditional SBA lending program became extremely interested in helping during the Paycheck Protection Program. So there are just under 5,000 lenders now that are actually up and operating with the program. But it took them a long time. I mean, this is historic that we spent in 14 days, more money than we've ever given out in 14 years. So, it's a historic proportion. And in the last 2 weeks, there were 500 additional lenders, approximately 500 additional lenders nationwide that are accepting applications from both existing customers and new customers. And I'm not sure what's going to happen, but there was a press release earlier in the week that PayPal, Intuit, and Square have been approved for lending, but they haven't come, they haven't come on. They were just approved and the money was, so people should keep an eye open for that. Everybody can get help, free help from business advisors, either through SCORE, which is our volunteer network, or a local small business development center. They're located in New York City. Harlem, we have one at Columbia University, right? A small business development center, and they provide free one-on-one counseling to small businesses to help them understand their particular situation and which program and how to apply and which banks. On SBA.gov/Paycheck Protection Program, there's a link that says in a blue box, find a lender, and you put in your zip code. And every couple of hours, that's being updated with new lenders that are being approved, many of whom are looking for new clients.
So what about community banks or CDFIs that are the institutions that will most likely work with underserved communities?
Those institutions have to apply to SBA to become an authorized lender.
Okay.
So there are certain guidelines by the federal government as far as their deposits, their insurance, to make sure that they meet the guidelines. And if they do, they can apply and see whether or not they get approved.
Do you have an idea of if this is something that is manageable for these institutions, or it is something that is very difficult to get this certification?
Even the big banks are being overwhelmed, in staffing and programming, developing new application procedures to handle the volume that's being done. I haven't myself looked into CDFIs. The Paycheck Protection Program goes up to $10 million. That's a pretty big loan for someone, for CDFI to
Randall?
do. Right. And a lot of community banks came in the last 2 weeks who did sign up for the program. Everything has been operating, everybody's been working around the clock and all different in the public and private sectors. So they have to really go, you could go online to score.newyorkcity.org and get to talk to an advisor, make an appointment, either a video or a phone appointment, or the small business development centers. And we also have some women business development centers. They're all available online. If you go to sba.gov/NY, in the lower left of the opening page, there's a link to the resource guide. And on page 11 and 12 lists all our SCORE chapters, WBCs and SBDCs. And, I don't have anyone's financial statements in front of me. So really, those people are best equipped. And also our not-for-profit lenders like Axiom, Renaissance, they work, Bach Capital, they work on credit repair issues and can point out weaknesses that are in applications and help you figure out how to overcome those challenges that can make you more, ready for the loans.
When these relief programs are put into place, does it take into account what we call in this country structural racism? This system that has been put in place to have resources go to a certain group and not to other groups?
From where I sit, I don't see that because the economic injury loan is run by the federal government, and you could apply for a small amount of money or a large amount of money. There's no pre-bank account. Those things were open. People had to act quickly. And, there are 30 million businesses and small businesses competing across the nation for those resources. And there were approximately 1.5 million loans done under the 1.5 million loans out of the 30 million small businesses, 1 million application of funding.
Mhm. Yeah, you
There's a bigger need. There's a bigger need of money given the number of businesses, and you know, I listen to the news just like you listen to the news. The pandemic, I think, is bigger and broader than anyone anticipated it was going to be. Right?
what should Black businesses do? Wait? I mean, maybe get the paperwork in order.
I
Uh,
think it's very important to get your paperwork in order, to discuss something with a business advisor. The only factual information, there's a lot of scams out there that people have to be aware of. The only factual information about these programs that they can trust is what's on the SBA website, sba.gov. And there'll be something about the economic injury loans and something about the Paycheck protection program. If your lender is not listed in that site that I said where find a lender, then they're not participating in our program. And, people have to be very, careful not to get scammed or give their information out. So yes, you have to get you should have your information ready. And you should be prepared for the next round of funding. Congress is talking about it now, and I think they're scheduled to come back in May, if not sooner. So, the businesses or yourself, you may want to have a conversation with your local, elected officials about that.
are there any other ways they can get money now beside? So when you're saying if members of Congress are coming back in May, that means that if they only talking about it, it takes a process to get it through through the two chambers, then signed by the
Right.
president. So it seems to me that it will take at least a couple of months. So
So, I've been on I don't know if you've interviewed Greg Bishop from the Commissioner from the Small Business Services. If he and I were on a panel together the other night, and he was talking about other resources that the city has made available through the New York City Bar Association, and another organization about helping people, get waivers on their mortgage interest or rent. Also, whether their insurance covers, whether their insurance covers the virus. Some people do, some people don't. So there are lots of different resources out there. If somebody already has an SBA loan, SBA is paying the next 6 months of principal and interest on 7A loans and 504 loans. So that is a help in cash flow waivers. Uh, there is an SBA disaster assistance express bridge loan for $25,000 that someone can discuss with their lending institutions. And, so all levels of government seem to be helping in different ways to ease cash flow burdens. So businesses should, again, I myself am just federal government, but the small business development centers are funded by both local government, the state, and the city, and the federal government, and they're more adept at putting together, all these packages that help ease the cash flow on businesses.